כל העולם כולו קשר צר מאוד, קשר צר מאוד, קשר צר מאוד, כל העולם כולו קשר צר מאוד, קשר צר מאוד.
I feel like I'm most Jewish when I'm in contact with other Jews. Easily the right answer to that question. Easily. I guess like, you know, putting on tefillin, saying the Shema, that's a pretty Jewish moment.
You wake up in the morning and you know that you belong to something very special that's been around for a very, very, very long time.
I know people who don't do anything, who do not know anything about Judaism, but they know they're Jewish.
Judaism, it's the way I think about before I eat something. I'm not kosher, but I do think about a little person in my brain that says, what would God want me to do? I don't think I'd be as happy if I didn't have my Judaism. It's everything. When I wake up, and the sunrise was just so amazing, and you know that God gave us that.
We would walk to shul every Shabbos. We observed most of the Jewish holidays.
We did grow up with a Christmas tree. Christmas was always Santa Claus and family time. It never had any religious connotations for us. So as a kid growing up, we had the menorah on one side and the Christmas tree on the other. And we did celebrate both in a secular way, not in a religious way.
We sort of celebrated Christmas because my dad's family really liked it. And Hanukkah was kind of like, you know, something that we should do to offset the fact that we celebrated Christmas. Confusing mishmash, I would say, as a kid.
Growing up here, me and my brothers were the only Jewish kids in school. I almost failed music class in elementary school because I refused to sing the Christmas songs.
I live in a mixed house. It's kind of like where worlds collide. My dad is German and Catholic, and my mom is Jewish and Ashki. I definitely, growing up, I got a lot of like the influence on both sides. Like Hanukkah, and then it'd be like Christmas tree, and I'd be like, oh sweet, both. But then like the more and more I got older, it doesn't mean as much to me. Like it's like Hanukkah is like, it's my thing. But growing up around it, I definitely have an appreciation for that other side too.
My father was Jewish and my mother was Cuban Catholic. How did his parents accept the getting married into a non-Jew? When they were engaged, kept saying, when are you going to tell your parents? When are you going to introduce me to your parents? They're in Brooklyn, and mom and dad are in Guantanamo. And my dad just said, you don't know my parents. Daddy married a shiksa.
When I first got married, one of my aunts, one of my mom's sisters, asked her if she was going to sit Shiva, because I wasn't marrying somebody who was Jewish.
My mom is Jewish, both her parents are Jewish. My dad has Jewish ancestry, so his grandfather is Jewish, but his father is only half Jewish and his mother is not Jewish. My mother's parents were not particularly pleased with that when they married, and there was some unhappiness about their marriage.
I would only marry a Jewish girl. Like, even my dad, he told me like, it's very important for you to marry somebody who has the same like religion and values as you. And I was like, look at him, like, you didn't do that, but I mean, so he must have learned something from that. Definitely Jewish girls.
I married very, very young to a wild Irishman, which was a disaster very quickly. Then I took a try at another guy, didn't work. And then I found this nice Jewish boy in Brady's Bar. I put 20 years in with that man. It was like a jail sentence because he was so extreme different than me.
Well, see, Mary Lou's not Jewish. My wife, Mary Lou, the good-looking one over there. She's very religious, and we both believe in God very deeply.
I met Melissa when I came up to Vallejo. Melissa was not Jewish at the time. We started dating and we started talking, and I, again, because of who I am, started explaining to her about
Kabbalah and mysticism. So she wound up converting before we even got married.
In 1987, I met my wife, Doreen, and we have 3 boys. We're blessed with 3 boys. My wife was not Jewish, but she really put under than 20%. We kept it kosher we can. Every Friday, I used to buy a challah. We used to have a Shabbos dinner. The holiday was all the time. The kids used to know Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, we didn't do nothing, no TV, nothing. Passover was Passover. Got the bread out of the house, we didn't have chametz. They all got circumcised when they're born, also after the 8th day.
My kids, when we come to United States, they both had the bar mitzvahs. They both have a bris. Of course, they were a little bit older than supposed to, but we couldn't do back in Russia.
Maybe we're not the most well-versed in terms of like Torah knowledge and traditions, but you know, I think you put a Russian Jew on any sort of test, you know, in terms of how Jewish you are, and I think that's where we shine.
No, we weren't religious. But it's interesting, that word religious, because I think it's, you know, has so many different meanings, because I feel like I'm very religious. So Judaism actually helps me make all my decisions. It makes it easy for me. I can reduce the stress in my life. And I've been to Mormon churches, I've been to Baptist churches. I did all my research.
I grew up hearing things like, oh, those are 3-day Jews, referring to Jews who go to synagogue. Of course, they don't go to shul, they go to synagogue or temple on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. This one didn't think that this one's kosher was kosher enough. This one and that one disagreed with each other, and everybody looked down at these guys, and these guys looked down on those guys. And it was very off-putting. I just lost respect for the formality of religion.
There was a point where I kind of left it behind. I had some reasons to be very angry with God. So we parted company for a while. No, I didn't say, for example, that he doesn't exist, because, you know, you can't be angry at something that doesn't exist. So for a number of years, I departed, you know, from all observance.
First of all, I believe that there is a God. And I believe that we are ultimately answerable to God. Whatever that God is, I don't know. You know, it's not a man sitting on a chair with a beard. I don't believe that. But there is something that's running all of this that we are accountable for.
I don't believe in God because I've had such an ugly, hateful, hard life, and I don't think I'm that bad of a person that I deserve that. I don't think there's no God. And some days, I have to tell you the truth, I get so mad. I say, if you're up there, I hope you fall down and break your goddamn head. God forgive me for saying that if there is one. But that's the truth.
I never was mad at God. I'm not mad because I'm gay. I was for a while. There was many years I thought, I don't have to be this way. I'm gonna be different. I didn't want to be gay. I wanted to be like everybody else. I mean, I was at a bad point. I'm like a Jack Jew, you know. I do things on Shabbat that I probably shouldn't do. But I don't like the word should. It's just one of those words. I don't even want to use that word should.
The very concept of God, I think that people have a lot of trouble with the idea of what God is, because, well, we say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, God is our God. God is one. And it's a Kabbalistic concept that God is everything. People are always trying to do things in the name of God because they seem to think that God can't do it himself. Which is where you get all the wars and all the hate and all the people that are forcibly trying to convert or change someone instead of working on changing themselves.
I believe that there's such a thing as you could be a Jewish Buddhist, you could be a Jewish Christian. You know, you're a Jew practicing a different religion. That's how I see it. I know that is not how the Orthodox believe, but that's the conclusion I've come to.
I had 2 sets of dishes. We celebrated the Jewish holidays. We lit candles on Shabbat.
Because that's what Messianics do.
Right, except for they believe that the Messiah has already come and Jesus, Yeshua, is the Mashiach. And little by little, I realized I don't believe this anymore. So in February of 1996, I went to the mikveh. And from the moment that I made the decision to convert, I felt like I grew roots. For the first time in my life, I really felt rooted.
When you're born Jewish, you're Jewish, no matter what, You don't ask for it, this is the way it is. And I don't believe in, you can change it and become something else. My father did it, my mother did it, my grandfather did it. And it's very important for me, and it's important for me and my kids, really embracing Judaism and want to be there.
By the Orthodox, if you have children with your wife, then your children won't be Jewish.
It doesn't matter what we have to say about them as to whether or not they're Jewish. Who's going to listen, right? There's a reason that Israel gears its identity around who is a Jew, to include patrilineal descent, to include whether or not your grandmother or grandfather was Jewish in your consideration for Aliyah, and that's because that's how Hitler defined who was a Jew. And regarding our children, yeah, we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get to it. I can tell you what's important to me as a Jew. What's important to me is the survival of the Jewish people and Jewish identity. And I know that from amongst Orthodox Jews that, our children, and we would adopt, I suppose, but our children wouldn't be considered Jewish unless they went through an Orthodox conversion. And maybe that would be a problem, and maybe it wouldn't. But I'll tell you what isn't a problem. The continued survival and well-being of the Jewish people and the love that we share for each other. When it comes to dealing with our differences, they're not more important than dealing with our collective challenges.
My oldest is converted conservative and married to a guy that's converted conservative Jewish, and my younger daughter, she has a very, very great appreciation and for the Judaism. She still shakes her etrog and lulav.
The oldest one, the one who went there first, she lives in Israel, in Beit Harilית, has Kanina, 10 children. If you would have told me 20 years ago that I would have a grandson who wears a spodek and a beard, I would have said, I don't know what drugs you're on, but it's not a happening event.
That's an interesting aspect. My daughter Rebecca likes Hanukkah candles, and once in a while she'll light Shabbat candles, and she likes to do Passover Seder with us. And my youngest, Jared, considers himself a Hebrew, but religiously he says that he's a Taoist, and I'm going, okay. Then this is even weirder. My oldest son, Benjamin, fell in love with Pakistani Muslim, and he wanted to marry her, so her parents said, you can't marry her unless you become a Muslim. So he did. And then my younger daughter and her husband, they converted to Ethiopian Orthodox Christianity.
You have everything.
It's pretty wild.
I'm comfortable wherever there are human beings who are being decent human beings.
Are we done?
No, almost. Have you ever felt someone personally doesn't like you because you're Jewish?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, it's so hard. I definitely have people who have a problem with me being Jewish. Like, in person, it's kind of rare. Like, somebody might say something and then they won't say it again because, like, I'm not very nice after that. But, like, online, it's really bad. You Jew, can't believe 6 million wasn't enough, all that stuff. I feel like with my generation, because it's online too, so we see it a lot more often, pretty much every day, we definitely have a more of a preemptive strike approach of like, we have to do something about it before something happens.
I used to be very brave. I would put out menorahs and big things on for the holidays outside, and I never was nervous about it. But in general, there's too much anti-Semitism, and I can't be naive and think that it's not going to affect me, because I don't know my neighbors. Some of them might be anti-Semites, and so I don't talk that much about it. So things have really changed.
As a teenager, I was actually attacked by a skinhead. He saw the star on my neck, and he ripped off his shirt, and he had this giant swastika tattooed on him, and he reached in the car and grabbed me. But luckily the driver realized what was going on, and she stepped on the gas, so I got away, and I was not hurt. But I was 16 when that happened, and I never forgot it.
There's not a single person who knows me that does not know that I'm Jewish. I don't hide it. In fact, I'm pretty outgoing with it, because growing up here, people say things like, "Oh, I got Jewed," which in America means that, you know, somebody took your money, they gave you a bad deal or whatever. And so when people say things like that, of course I would be very upset, and sometimes I would speak with my hands and not my words.
He tried to tell me, my boss, there's no anti-Semitism in this country. And I said, you're not paying attention. Anyone who's Jewish, who grew up in this place in the United States, who says that they never experienced any anti-Semitism is lying or mistaken.
When I grew up, there was a lot of, even in our neighborhood, there was older couples. Those were people that escaped, that survived the concentration camps, and they had the tattoos and all of that. I think ever since I was a kid, the whole, and a little kid, I think the whole Nazi experience impacted me very deeply.
To me, it wasn't history. To me, it was immediate. It was my family. I would have loved to have known my brothers and sister, those aunts and uncles and cousins that were all murdered. And I'm careful to use the word murdered, because they weren't simply killed, they were murdered.
I had no relatives who lost their lives due to Hitler. I'm frightened.
The single biggest piece of my identity is that I am Jewish. And so, you know, I do think of us as a people, though, not necessarily as a religion. To me, Christianity is a religion, Islam is a religion. We're a people. We have our own food, we have our own language, we have our own everything. That makes us a people. That doesn't make us a religion. It makes us a people. And so I recognize I'm part of that people.
Judaism, for me personally, is the greatest gift, because you wake up in the morning and you know that you belong to something very special that's been around for a very, very, very long time. You know, that they say we're God's chosen people. Being chosen people comes with a lot of responsibility.
I just want to make a big difference, and you need a community for that, man. I mean, there's a reason that it's called the Shechuna, because that's what's up in your neighborhood. You know what I mean? It's the Shechina is from the Shechuna, right? And that's the biggest tuna. So the point is that that I've realized how much it's about community and that connection, and how no one's gonna understand God by themselves. That's the rule. God is gonna give 99%. He just needs that 1% from us. I really believe that. And to be honest with you, if you're gonna ask me what it means to be chosen, choosing to do that is what is that one little thing. That's what gives us the status. And without that, we lose our Jewishness, and we can lose our Jewishness.
As a child, my father abandoned his family, left my mother, who had worked in a number of years. The Jewish community in Los Angeles saved us. My mother became so involved in the Jewish community after my father had left, and took, unknown to me, they took care of us.
I was always more comfortable in shul than I was anywhere else. I spent 6 months in kibbutz. Before I was even religious then, I milked cows. I would sit and milk cows at night all by myself, and I would sing Hallel, all of the songs that I grew up with, all night long. And, I wasn't practicing Judaism. I wasn't Jew, but it's just part of who I am. It's just part of my nature.
I really strongly believe that you're not just going to pray and ask God when you need it. You have to do it always. When you start it, you can't stop. So I really, really have it in my heart. Maybe I'm not always doing correctly, but I really, really trying.
People should take away always a message of love and to operate from a place of love. I think that's the biggest, most important message that we can share with each other, is that Jewishness ultimately should spring from a deep place of love, whether it's love for the divine or love for fellow Jews and for others and strangers. And that is the ultimate, most important thing that I think that I've been taught and that I have gained from Jewishness is a deep and profound sense of love.
When people have God in their soul and in their heart, they cannot do bad things.
What is a good Jew? A good Jew is a Jew who thinks that tomorrow he can be a better Jew. Am I okay with who I am? I'm okay, but I know I have places and goals to reach. One of my prayers is, I say, God, guide me onto the right path and give me the courage to follow it.
You have a right to argue with God, because God made me finite. So if something bad happens, I can argue with God, I can yell at God. That's not disrespectful.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.